BBC Newcastle.
Stories, music, life.
Well, it was this time last week. Thousands of people were waking up, maybe with a few butterflies in their stomachs, knowing they were about to run the world's most popular half marathon, the Great North Run. Of course, attracts participants from all walks of life, but perhaps you might not expect the person running next to you to be a bishop. And in the Bishop of Berwick's case, well, he probably wasn't running next to you. Chances are he's probably running in front of you because he's a pretty nifty runner. The Right Reverend Mark Tanner joins us now on the line from Botswana. Morning, Mark.
Good morning. I didn't feel very nifty last week, believe me. I felt exhausted.
Well, we'll come to why you're actually in Botswana in just a moment, but first we will go back to last weekend, the Great North Run. The big question, how did it go for you?
Oh, I loved it, and at the end of it, I was just exhausted, but it was fantastic. What an atmosphere.
Now, we've had a quick look at your time, and go on, it was pretty impressive. Tell us how fast you went.
I did it in 1:53. I wanted to be under 2 hours, so I was happy with that. But I want to do better next year already. You know what it's like.
Now, apparently you ran the first 5K in 23 minutes. Do you think you might have gone off a little bit too fast at the start?
Well, that's one of the problems. I do the park run every week. I love the park run, and that's just 5K, and I get quite competitive with other people. So I think maybe I was just in park run mode rather than half marathon mode.
Now, you're no stranger to running, of course. You've done quite a few half marathons before, and you've also been spotted at the Druridge Bay Park Run. So, pretty fit guy. Is it, obviously, being a bishop, do you pray while you're running?
Yes, I do. I pray and I think, and sometimes those two things are quite linked, aren't they? When you've got something you're chewing over, actually being able to talk about it with God. I find running, because I can't have my phone with me and I'm usually by myself, it's a great time to think and pray.
So, okay, is it just the pounding? Is it quite relaxing then? Quite, cleansing of the mind? Does it help?
Yeah, well, what I normally do, if I'm honest, is I read a bit of the Bible before I go out, so I've got something to think through. And it's not praying all the way, but it just gives me that thing that I can chew over. It's the regular rhythm of the body, like you say, the kind of pounding. It's a bit of space to think, to pray, to reflect, and just to be, really.
Now, I would imagine most people who ran the Great North Run last weekend are probably waking up this morning thinking, so it's a normal Sunday, I can have a lie in. But for you, as I said, doing the Great North Run last Sunday morning, this morning, you're in Botswana. Tell us, why are you in Botswana?
Well, I'm in Gaborone, which is the capital of Botswana. Newcastle Diocese has had a link with the Diocese of Botswana for a good number of years now. So every year, some of us come and visit, and some of the Botswanans come to visit us in Newcastle as well. And it's the first time I've been. It's just fantastic. I spent yesterday with a whole crowd of young people from the diocese. Their joy, their hope is wonderful, really. And to be able to share the faith that we're having, God's love, here and there, has just been superb.
And how long are you there for?
I'm only here a flying visit. I arrived on Thursday and I'm leaving tomorrow, but the team are here for 2 weeks. I could only manage a few days. And
you've got a service to perform. Obviously, we're actually interrupting your preparations because I think it was a little over 15 minutes.
That's right. It's just about 15 minutes' time. We've got two big services in the cathedral. English is one of the main languages in Botswana, so the first one just in English, and the second one is translation. So I'm going to have to try and slow down so that they can translate everything I say.
So obviously, being Bishop of Berwick, then, you've got quite a varied job, because as I said, one Sunday morning you're here in the North East running the Great North Run, and the next you're in Botswana.
Well, absolutely, and even more crazy than that. Last Sunday evening, after I'd finished the Great North Run, I was meeting with our own young people in Newcastle Diocese to talk to them about where they want the church to go, how they want, because obviously they're very much part of who the church is. So I'm all over. When I say I'm all over the place, I mean I travel all over the place. I just love it because the truth is the church is for everyone, as I was saying last week, and to be a bishop who can go and meet so many different groups of people is such a privilege.
Mm-hmm. So after your service then this morning, how does the rest of your Sunday pan out over there?
So a couple of services and then a bit of a quieter time in the early afternoon, and then we've got a big open-air event later this afternoon, and then a celebration meal tonight, and then tomorrow I start my journey home, which takes quite a long time.
Oh, well, I wish you the best of luck and wish you a safe journey home, of course, as well. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
That's Mark Tanner, the Bishop of Berwick, as I said, last weekend running the Great North Run. Today, obviously over in Botswana, as you do. It's BBC Newcastle, radio for the North East. And of course, he wasn't the only bishop running the Great North Run last weekend. Also, the Bishop of Newcastle, the Right Reverend Christine Hardman. She was lining up on the start line, and we'll hear from her a little bit later in the programme. And also running the Great North Run was the Bishop of Newcastle, Christine Hardman, who joins us on the line now. Good morning, Christine.
Good morning.
So we heard there Mark ran the race in 1 hour and 53 minutes. I'm sure you weren't far too...
He was a star, wasn't he? Absolutely lovely.
You weren't far too behind, though, were you?
Oh, about an hour. It was an amazing experience. I used to do a lot of running, but about 5 years ago, my knees started to protest. Mm-hmm. So this was a bit of a risk, this one, and I ran with my best friend who got me into running, bit of a swan song, and it was fantastic.
So even though you've got the problem with your knees, which I would imagine, all that pounding, probably a bit of pain on the way, did you still manage to enjoy it?
I loved it. I loved every minute of it. In the past, I would have been like Bishop Mark was said in his interview, I would have been trying for a good time. Uh-huh. This time I knew that wasn't even a question. I had a wonderful time chatting to people, high-fiving children, and just being moved by the number of stories of people doing that run. You look at people's backs where they just tell a bit of their story, running in memory of Dad, and I just felt so moved to be part of it all. It was incredible.
So when you're actually running, do you have time to talk to people? Or, because obviously you're focused on, completing the course.
Yes.
I suppose it's maybe, I don't know, if you have a few miles where you might walk. So is it the people who are watching you chatting to, or is it the fellow runners?
Well, it's both. And the glorious, this is the first time I've run a race where I haven't been thinking, I want to get under, whatever. I run a run. It was wonderful. It was very relaxing and such fun. And the bit where you go over the Tyne Bridge and the red arrows come past and you feel the heartbeat of the northeast of England with all its generosity, people on the route being so encouraging. Amazing event.
Now, I know you've also run the London Marathon a few times, and I imagine, these races where you have thousands of people running, you've got thousands of spectators, I would imagine, a very similar setup, in terms of the crowds and all the inspiring stories. Is there much of a difference, though, between the atmosphere in London and up here in the North East for the Great North Run?
Both are fantastic events, but for me, the way that the people were people on the route in the Great North Run, they weren't just cheering. People were out there, children out there with oranges, with jelly babies, with really encouraging words. There was a warmth and a friendship that was, I think, quite outstanding.
Now, you were running, obviously, along with Mark. You both had your purple T-shirts on.
We did.
So you're clearly identifiable as bishops. Any people you're running along with, were they surprised to see you there?
It was quite funny because somebody came past and said, particularly being female, I guess, somebody ran past and said, "Are you really a bishop?" And that was great fun. And then my friend beside me had a purple T-shirt on with Bishop's friend on the back. And someone said, "Is that a beer?" It was lovely. It was wonderful.
It does actually sound like it should be, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
One of those old-fashioned real ales. Now, obviously, despite the problems with your knees, and this was the first time you'd run the Great North Run, wasn't it?
No, I ran it back in about 2002, something like that.
Oh, quite a few years ago then.
Yeah, quite a few years ago.
Is it something you'd be persuaded to do again? Or is that, no, that's it done?
To be honest, the long distance really didn't. I enjoyed it, the knees didn't. So probably not a long-distance run again, but just getting out running, is an amazing thing to do. And this time for me, it was very special because I felt I had to make something worthwhile out of this final half marathon, probably. And the charity I was running for, I was really thrilled that, people, I had such generous support. So I ran for the West End Refugee Service in Newcastle, who helped really people who are completely destitute, and we've managed to raise well over £4,000 for them, so that's another added bonus.
Now, of course, it goes without saying we do live in troubled times. And I imagine when we have events like this with hundreds of thousands of people attending, there is always that risk now, isn't there? But do you think it's good to still remind ourselves, though, how much, goodness there is in the world? People running, raising money for charity. And on days like the Great North Run, everyone seems to put their differences to one side. And it all just effectively just seems to be, one big party.
I think it's absolutely one of the most important things we can do. The vast majority of people in our world are really lovely, decent people. And, seeing Brendan Foster's vision lived out in such an amazing way. He's an incredible man, and he had this vision back in the 80s that there could be a mass event for ordinary people, not just elite athletes. And seeing, the warmth and the a sense of achievement and the delight that people have in this, he must get the most incredible sense of pride and joy when he sees this happening every year, because it really was his brainchild.
Bishop of Newcastle, Christine Hardman, thanks for your time. We better let you go now because I know you've got to get to church, haven't you?
I'm off to do a confirmation at Felton in Northumberland. And so, hello, good morning to anybody in Felton. See you later.
Okay, thanks a lot, Christine Hardman.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bishop of Newcastle with her thoughts on last weekend's Great North Run.